we really appreciate you joining us today to tackle this tough conversation, but very necessary conversation. My name is Angela Crawford. I am the Membership and Marketing Vice President for the Builders Association AGC Kansas City chapter, based out of Kansas City, but representing a good chunk of the heartland here in commercial construction. And I'm very honored to be joined by our panelists to have this conversation. Before we dive in, before I introduce them, I do want to take just a moment to tell you a little bit about the initiative that this webinar grew out of. While the stigma around mental health and the epidemic of suicide is not new to the construction industry, the recognition of the need to take big steps to make a difference gained traction in 2020 at the start of the pandemic. A group of safety professionals in partnership with OSHA came together around kind of mid-year to launch this task force in 2020. And it's grown over that time. And this year we took that effort national and have really grown this outside of the heartland to be coast to coast and even international in some instances. To give you an idea of where we stand so far here in 2022, we've had 109 organizations register their participation in Construction Suicide Prevention Week next week. Those registered organizations represent 32 states and the District of Columbia. And the total number of workers participating at those organizations now tops 100,000. We had 121 people register for today's webinar, and we've given away over 25,000 items with the National Lifeline on them across the country to organizations. So if you've not yet registered your organization, please take 2 minutes, visit constructionsuicideprevention.com and make sure that you register your organization's participation. By being here on this webinar, you are participating. We'll record this and share it to our website so that you can share it with your company as well. And with that, I want to go ahead and get started with introducing our panelists. We'll go in alphabetical order. So Brandon, I will start with you. Brandon Anderson is the Vice President of Safety at AGC Missouri. And when I introduce each panelist, they will share a little bit about their background and how they landed here today.
Thanks, Angela. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor to share this webinar with the colleagues that are on as well on this panel. Disclaimer for me, I'm just a man. I am not a clinician. I am not a licensed psychologist or counselor, but I have a lot of lived experience. And sadly, a lot of it focuses around mental health. As a survivor of having lost a number of individuals, family and friends to suicide and opioid misuse, as well as being a survivor of an attempt myself. So this is near and dear to my heart. I appreciate the efforts that this group and this task force has made, and proud to be a part of it.
Thank you, Brandon. Next, I'll introduce Barb Mayers, the Area Director for the Greater Kansas American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
Thank you, Angela, and I am honored to be here. And I personally became involved in 2008 with American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I'm just going to abbreviate it from here on out, just saying AFSP, because it's a mouthful. And so I became involved, unfortunately, because I lost my 16-year-old son, Jason, to suicide. And before that, I would have never dreamed I was walking in this journey. And when it hit home, I just knew in my heart that something needed to change and I needed to help others, give them hope and educate them. And my 18-year-old son was away at school. He came home and 6 months and 3 weeks later, he took his life. So within 7 months, I had to endure losing not one, but two sons to suicide. And so since then, it took me quite a few years before I really got involved. But once I did, I haven't stopped. And so I'm very passionate about the cause and giving others hope and letting them know that it's okay to seek help. And, we're all here to help them. So thank you.
Next, I'll introduce Mandy McIntyre, the owner and president of Level Up Consultants.
Thank you, Angela. I'm honored to be here as well. I'm actually also super excited because I think this is a heavy topic and we can make it, a little engaging by sharing our lived experience. I have a lived experience dealing with mental health, myself, coworkers, friends, family. I come from the roofing industry, but I've been in the roofing industry for about 10 years now. Before that, my parents own a general contracting company. So I've been in construction my whole life, and I've seen mental health be a problem. And so what my business focuses on is company culture and leadership initiatives to help companies navigate and deal with mental health in the workplace by offering mental health first aid training. And my goal is to make mental health first aid a safety initiative for the construction industry to have real action and tools to utilize when dealing with a mental health challenge or crisis.
Thank you, Mandy. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Morales, the Compliance Assistant Specialist with the Department of Labor, OSHA.
Good morning, everybody. I join all the panelists in the sense of that it's a privilege to be here today and to be part of this group that we have a mission, a common mission, which is work together to save lives. I joined this group in 2020 and with my area director, Karina Lorick. Since then has been a wonderful experience to see how 48 safety professionals from different backgrounds, not only construction, but also general industries, hospitals, insurance, unions, safety professionals in general, and company owners that have joined us in this noble cause. Together we can make the difference, and that's why we are here today.
Thank you all. So the way that we'll conduct our webinar is we have some questions that I'll help lead our conversation through, but we welcome anybody who has joined us for the webinar to drop questions through the chat, or if you prefer to leave your question anonymously, you can do so through the Q&A, which is also enabled. We'll kind of play it by ear. If we get questions as we go, we'll probably address those when they come in. But otherwise, we'll leave some time at the end to make sure that we do address any questions from attendees as well. So with that, let's get the conversation started. I'm going to address the first question to Brandon and Mandy, who've both been in the industry for quite some time. Can you talk a little bit about how you've seen the industry evolve over time when it comes to mental health?
Sure.
Go right ahead, Mandy.
Okay. So I can remember being a kid and my dad working with a foreman who had a substance use issue, and he would come into work. At the time, the shop was at our property, and he'd come into work and my dad would drive him around to sober him up before going on the job site. So this is like 30 years ago. And then just being in the roofing industry early on in my career, there was a lot of, there was no talk of mental health. And right before COVID, I kind of started initiating it. And then after COVID is when I think we can all agree that everyone just saw the importance of mental health, and you just started seeing it become more of an acceptable topic, if you will. And now, I mean, we're seeing how needed these conversations are, and the stigma that is the barrier to having these crucial conversations. So I think today we're in a really good place. There's still a lot of change that needs to happen, but this is a great place to start.
Yeah, I would agree with that, with everything Mandy said. Over the years, in my experience, I've seen individuals come to work under the influence of alcohol or substances. And typically when it was discovered, they were just fired, just kicked right off the job and ran off in a lot of cases. Unless it was somebody, as Mandy described, that there was probably some history and relationship there with the owner or the foreman of something to that effect. With that being said, as far as an evolution of it today, we're seeing contractors pause and not just kick someone off the job site or fire them immediately. Instead, they're utilizing resources for recovery, such as EAP programs, or the union, if it could be an MAP, something to that effect is what we're seeing to be more common, trying to help one another, recover from whatever that substance is, or from a mental health standpoint. Again, same types of resources are available through an EAP or MAP, and local resources and in community to help with mental health struggles. We're seeing the contractors lean on that rather than just a one and done situation. They're giving folks a chance, which is good to see.
Thank you. Elizabeth, I'm going to turn to you and would love to hear your perspective from kind of a policy standpoint. What are the standards of safety when it comes to mental health in the workplace?
As we know, we don't have yet an OSHA standard to address mental health in the workplace. However, that's why we are working not only with our OSHA national office, we're working with all the 10 regions to create groups, to create the awareness of this situation that is happening right now in our workplaces. That's why we need to initiate these difficult conversations to reach the people, to reach our workers, and with the information, with all the resources. And we need to start as safety professionals to learn how to start these conversations, because it can be the difference between life and death. So right now, as OSHA stands, we are advancing and we are very ambitious to start the conversation wherever they are calling us. We are here 24/7. Our group of 48 safety professionals in Kansas City is making the difference every day. So if you need somebody to talk with, if you need help, we are here to help. We are here to share information 24/7. Also, we have our website that you can go and obtain that information as you need it. And what we encourage employers is to start creating safety and health programs that address how they can learn about this topic, how they can access the help 24/7, and how they can overcome all these barriers in a safe way, so we can keep our workplace safe at all times.
To add to that, Angela, if I can, in regards to standards of safety, what also comes to mind in the workplace for mental health is policies. I've seen a lot of general contractors all the way to subcontractors and specialty contractors that have been either gone as far as adjusting their policies and safety policies and protocols within their organization completely, or they're at least having the conversation regarding mental health and substance misuse. And what does that look like? Again, from a drug testing standpoint, historically, it's always been, if you're, under the influence or you test positive for something, then that's it. And I know of a number of general contractors that now have put it out that, hey, if you come to us first ahead of time and say, hey, I have a problem, I need help, then they'll work with the employee and get them that needed help ahead of time.
We did have a question come in. I'll go ahead and take some of these questions as they come. Looks like Nakana, I think is the name, has asked a question directed towards Brandon. Wants to know, what do you think that old school thinking about being kicked off or fired is another reason that people don't come forward? How do you see this mindset changing with companies sharing information and starting conversations?
Yeah, I do think there's still there's the stigma that surrounds mental health as a whole. right? And suicide and substance misuse. And we have to deal with that and address that as well. But then there's the stigma also of just coming forward and saying, I need help, whether it's a substance issue or whatnot. And people are afraid to, because they're afraid if I come and tell my boss that, hey, I've got a drug problem or an alcohol problem, that they're going to be labeled, and they're putting themselves out there and could get fired or released, or it could hold them back from promotion or the next job, whatever the case may be. Yeah, I would agree. But I think the more organizations talk about this and share, hey, it's not just about it's okay to not be okay, to ask for help, to come forward. It's also, we have resources. So if you're struggling, you can utilize those, and we're here to help you. We care about you. Obviously, there's a workforce shortage. We're all struggling with that. No one can really afford to lose an employee in any way, shape, or form. And many are doing everything they can to keep people healthy from a physical and mental standpoint. So I do see the mindset changing with various companies around this. So.
Thank you. So speaking of resources, and it's not enough to just say it's okay to not be okay. We have to be able to take actionable steps. So with that in mind, I want to turn to Barb and ask Barb. I know you and I have had some conversations about what you wish you knew, and a lot of that is the warning signs. So in a culture that perpetuates this idea of toughness, what are the kinds of signs that people can be looking for in somebody who might be struggling?
If they are talking about killing themselves, if they are talking that they feel hopeless and they are a burden to others, and if they just don't feel like, or they feel like they would be better off if they weren't around, take all of these seriously, and don't be afraid to have a real conversation with them. And also different behaviors. If they are behaving where they're increasing alcohol or drug use, or if they are withdrawing from activities they used to do with coworkers, if they're whole different behavior changes where they're isolating themselves from family and friends, and if they are sleeping too much or too little, coming into work late, or when they do get there, that they're all wired up and ready to go, or they're fatigued, or they're showing different mood swings. So these are all conversations, and I always say, go with your gut. If you feel something is not right, approach them, and you have to look at it, it's a win-win situation. I mean, it's you approaching them, and what's it going to hurt but to let them know that you care. So I feel have that open conversation with them and just let them know you care and really listen to them, and then guide them, whether you have to take them to a mental health service situation or emergency room. Let them know that you're there for them. But all these different signs, there is more of them. But like I said, go with your gut feeling. And if something seems out of the ordinary for this individual, something's going on, and don't be afraid to talk to them.
I just wanted to add to that. I think a lot of people have the misconception that if you bring up the word suicide or mention the word suicide, it is going to push somebody to die by suicide. And that is if you get one thing out of this webinar, that is a myth. That is a myth. Don't be afraid to have these conversations. And I think this is where a culture of breaking that stigma and a culture of awareness is so important for contractors, because the people that are with, so people out in the field, their coworkers are the ones who are with them the most, or supervisor, project manager, what have you. And So those are the people that need to be looking for the signs and symptoms. And those are the people that need to say something. When I was working for a roofing contractor, we had somebody in recovery. We had one foreman that died by overdose, which triggered another foreman to fall off of his recovery. And he went missing for 3 days. And I asked all the guys, I said, what have you been noticing? You know, because I didn't know what was wrong. Like, oh yeah, we've noticed this and that for a couple months now. And I was like, why have you not said anything to me? And I think it's important for leadership, middle management, upper management to relay that message. If you see something, say something, because that is going to be the difference between life and death out on the job site.
And Mandy, that was exactly the follow-up question that I was going to ask. So thank you. We're all thinking on the same page here. Elizabeth, I'd like to hear a little bit from you about what you think the industry can do a little bit more specifically. I know Brandon alluded to this earlier in addressing some of the questions about how it's evolving, but what can we do specifically to help break the stigma around mental health?
We need to be honest, and we need to remove our fears from the past and start the conversations. We need to do that as safety professionals. Our mission is the same: save people's life. Our workers are so important, including our managers. That's why OSHA has created a powerful poster that talks about the five things that you need to know to convey that information to your safety managers, your superintendent, to everybody in leadership, workers, union, and everybody. 5 things. Everybody can help prevent suicide. I don't have to be a super expert to prevent suicide. I just have to be Elizabeth Morales and be attentive and listen and look for the signs, look for the symptoms to be able to facilitate the help that this person probably doesn't know that needs help. But I am trained now by all these wonderful people. Now I can be that facilitator. Now I can become a facilitator to help this person to make the right decisions. Also, knowing the warning signs of suicide, like Barb said, like Mandy said, and Brandon. So we need to study this. We need to dedicate our best time to this and do our best to help and facilitate the information. And also, don't be afraid to say, are you okay? Ask that question. It's just simple. And you will be surprised that probably 99% of the people are going to say, I'm not okay. I need help. Then we can help. Then we are successful, because then we can help them, respecting them, treating them with honor, dignity, and knowing that everything has a solution. Also, if someone is in crisis, stay with them. Don't leave that person alone. I remember I had a cousin in Philadelphia. He called me because his son was about to commit suicide. And it was wonderful to provide all this information, the number to call, what to do, and we saved that life. So that is not only helping me as a safety professional, but it's helping me as a family member as well. And be aware of all the 1,000 resources that we have available for them and facilitate that. We have it in English, we have it in Spanish, and if we need it in any other language, it's there as well. So that's my take on that.
And Angela,
yes, go
if I
ahead.
could just add something quick, that even if they don't tell you that they're doing okay, or if they just agree with you that they're okay, you already opened that door for communication, so they know that you are a person that they can go and talk to. So it's worth just saying, you know, I'm worried about you, I care about you, and reach out to me if you need to talk. And so you open that door. So even if they say they're okay, but you have that gut feeling that they're not, you already opened that door for them to come back to you.
Yeah. Real quick to add into this, we could talk a really long time about this particular question. All of us, I'm sure, no doubt there's a passion we all have for this topic. Individuals, and expanding on that to organizations as well. Just it's a call to action. You know, it's a word Angela used earlier. We need to start taking action. We've been talking about stigma for a long time. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's been that for 73 years we've been talking, and action's been taken, but there's this resurgence of it, this need to take more action. So whether it's an individual or an organization and company or a union, whatever the case may be, I would encourage them just to have the courage to do something, whether it's just start the conversation. There's toolbox talks on the construction suicide prevention website, AGC of Missouri, OSHA, you know, the list goes on and on. Start a committee, you know, talk to some fellow. Once you start having that conversation, like Barb mentioned, you know, people will come out of the woodwork. They will start opening up and say, hey, I can relate, and start having conversations. And maybe you start a group or an action team for your company to talk about this topic and what resources the organization has available, or the construction industry as a whole, or locally in the community, and provide those posters. There's the wristbands that Angela mentioned earlier. There's hard hat stickers. There's so much available to the industry to keep breaking the stigma. Not that, you know, I hate to say normalize the conversation. We don't want suicide or mental health to be normal, but it's okay to talk about it and to take action into the next steps. So.
And we do have a number of questions coming in from our attendees, so I'm going to shift gears. We had a couple more on our list that I want to make sure we wrap up with, but I'd like to make sure we also have a chance to address those that have been coming in. So I'll go in the order that we've been receiving them here, starting with Don Greenwell, who's asked, once somebody has shared a personal experience with suicide, what is your experience in this industry in others then opening up?
I can answer it, or I would say that it's eye-opening how many individuals come forward. Simply being on a job site recently, doing a toolbox talk for a stand down on this particular topic in front of 180 people, and then afterwards, 15 minutes or less of the conversation on presentation for this, and you have 8 or 9 folks come up to you, men and women of all walks of life and age groups, that are saying, hey, I'm struggling, what do I do next? Or it's, hey, thanks for talking about this. This is important, and then they've got a personal story, how it touched them. And so, yeah, people, once you break that ice, right, people will come forward. We just have to be prepared to take action and provide them with resources.
And that's one of the questions I want to make sure we do wrap up with, is where those resources can be found. So I want to make sure that that's something that we address today. But we have another question that came in that's asking, if an employee is not falling in the category of being a threat to themselves or others, but they are having a mental health issue or crisis, how do we as employers get that person the help they need if they're refusing to get help on their own? So maybe start to Mandy and then kind of jump in from there.
Yeah, you obviously can't force anybody to do anything, but what you can do is keep that door open for continued conversation. And I would be very careful whenever you have a conversation about mental health with someone on a one-on-one basis, make sure it's private. Make sure you're listening non-judgmentally. Make sure you're, actively listening. That you can get more from somebody in that regard. If you're just having a sidebar conversation with, the whole crew within earshot, they're not going to be as forthcoming. So I would make sure that the conversation's private, and then just keep checking in on them and keep saying, if you need anything, let me know. And then just make small talk. just keep the conversation open, non-threatening, and continuing is my advice.
And I would just like to add and provide them with resources. So if they have resources and they don't feel comfortable with talking with their employer or somebody of that nature, they would have resources that maybe reach out and when they're ready to go get the help that they need. So always provide them with resources.
I'll just also note that that's one of the primary goals of our constructionsuicideprevention.com website is we've heard so many people say, I know this is an important topic. I want to have these conversations, but I don't know where to start or how to start. And so those are the types of resources we're providing on our site. There are then additional resources for those who are in crisis, but we're trying to give people in the industry the tools they need to start those conversations and direct people who might be in crisis to the resources to get actionable help. So we can also kind of go do a round robin here at the end too with any additional recommendations for where people can go to find those resources. We had another question come in from Alexa asking, she says, I don't work at a job site, but I work at an institute that trains crane operators and those in construction. How can I encourage implementation of having these kinds of conversations in training classes?
I'll jump in here. So if you take it from a business case to get leadership buy-in, every $1 spent in promoting mental health, you get a $3 to $5 return. And this is from SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management. Mental health is forecasted to contribute 16 trillion in lost output by 2030. So now is the time to start making it part of your company culture. 23 billion is spent annually in the US on work productivity loss due to depression alone. So if you want people to perform well, you have to make sure they feel well. And that's just not their physical well-being, that it's their mental well-being as well.
Yeah, and from a construction standpoint, if we think those numbers are just astonishing, Mandy, it really is. And sadly, usually it takes talking dollars and cents to get people to open their eyes. But you think about the fall protection industry. It's a multi-billion, $70 billion industry a year in some cases. And think about what we're spending on mental health. You know, how much is the industry as a whole spending to promote mental health or to provide resources or to prevent some of these issues and suicide and misuse of substances? It's pennies on the dollar, you know, compared to other things that we're focused on. And if you look at the National Safety Council and some other organizations and entities out there, the data, suicide and opioid, your chances of death from either one of those is higher than from falls. The rate, it's just a fact. We're losing a number of construction workers every year. It's 4 to 5 times higher than the national average, depending on the data you look at. Construction comes in second. So yeah, it's important to talk about this and to put our money where our mouth is and invest, whether it's mental health first aid, QPR, vital cog. There's a ton of trainings available that are quality to help with this conversation.
And I agree. And we all need to treat our mental health just as we do our physical health. It's actually one and the same. If you broke your arm, you would go and get it looked at by a doctor and perhaps for a cast. Well, if you're not feeling right mentally, you need to seek out help and get the help that you need so that your physical health is just as important as your mental health.
I think this was a good segue to the next question we had, which is how, Brandon talked about putting our money where our mouth is here. So what can we do? What are the specific steps or policies that we can take or that companies can take to create structural or systemic change to better support mental health? And I'll start that with Mandy. I know you're doing consulting in this area, so maybe talk about some of the ways that you're advising your clients and then let anyone else on the panel who has some thoughts as well chime in.
it's really it's a four-prong approach. It's leadership engagement, awareness, communication, and education. So when I was working for a roofing contractor, I did a monthly mental health wellness toolbox talk, so that we'd have physical, normal toolbox talks, and once a month it would be a mental health focus. And I got all of leadership to buy into this, and it started becoming part of the company culture the more you talk about it. And I would have people come up to me with their questions, looking for resources, and it became less fearful to talk about. And then what my company offers, and the reason I started my company, is to help our industry with these staggering statistics that we have with mental health issues, suicide, substance use, alcohol use. And so I became certified as an instructor to teach mental health first aid through the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. And what I've done is it's a 3-year certification, and I have augmented it to have specific construction related statistics and topics and resources. So it's truly a mental health first aid for the construction industry. I have some toolbox talks. You get a hard hat sticker that says mental health first aid. You get a card similar to an OSHA card that has a QR code with resources so that everyone has direct access at any time. There is a manual that it's like a reference guide and glossary. And I have a private LinkedIn group for other mental health first aiders in the construction industry to kind of, bounce ideas off each other. So I just think education is so important, a webinar such as this, but to really put talk into action is getting training. And I haven't seen anything like this for the industry. That's why I'm trailblazing it. And I'm hoping more people, join on with me, because I think by offering this, there will be real solid change within the industry.
And I just wanted to jump in and say, Mandy, I give you great admiration for what you're doing. So I thank you. And consistency is the key. If you want changes to be made, you need to be consistent and talk about mental health and continue to do that. Either it's a monthly or bi-monthly programs. So you pick the one that you feel is best for you. There's many out there, and consistently hold them, and you will see change.
I would like to add, if I can, we need to be the leaders of change. We need to be the people that our workers, our unions, our even managers look at us and feel comfortable coming to us, like Brandon mentioned, and express their concerns, their ideas about how we can change the vision, the mission of our safety and health programs. We need to be that connector. If you're building something, you're always going to need people are going to get on those steel areas, and they connect one steel with another steel. We are these people. We, as safety and health professionals, we have a long way to go. We have been talking about this for 73 years, like Brandon mentioned, and we have a long way to go. But together, we can make the change. It starts with us leading by example, and be that person that they come and we can bring light to their path and help them to achieve what they need to achieve or accomplish, whatever that may be. Who knows, but when they are in our hands and give the opportunity to help, we need to help with love, compassion, and care. And then we can accomplish our goal here.
Brandon, did you want to jump in on this one too?
we have to, like everyone has said, continue the conversation. And, Mandy mentioned earlier, the active listening part, and actually caring, too often we in passing, hey, how you doing? Right. And when you look at someone and you know them and they're struggling or they're off a little bit, right? There's something different. And we're like, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. And you just like, all right, you just move on. I would challenge everyone in those situations, you're following your gut, as some of the panelists have mentioned, pause and say, hey, no, really, how are you? You're just fine. And maybe ask and be sincere about it and dive a little deeper and then actively listen to them. And you'd be surprised how many people open up to you, and thank them for that. Too often I'm guilty of it. Many of us on this webinar are, I'm sure, and the participants that, yeah, I've been there, got a t-shirt too, you'll be fine, you'll get over it. That's not what that person needs to hear. They need to know that you're there for them. Thank them for having the courage to open up and trusting you to come to you or to open up to you, even if it was unsolicited on their end, and then help them through that process. There's been some other conversations today around folks in crisis and the question about, what do you do if they won't get the help themselves? Follow up that evening after work, the next day, seek them out in the morning. Just by showing, this isn't rocket science. Just you don't have to create this elaborate program or a toolbox talks. Just simply being human. I'm sure Mandy would agree, as I see you smiling there, and just saying, hey, I care about you, will help with the structural and systematic change. And it's really cultural is what it'll be. And that's our goal, right? The culture of being able to be open and free, to take our masks off and be ourselves and be raw and transparent without fear of judgment.
The next question that has come in kind of leads into one of the questions I wanted to wrap up with, which is around resources. So I'm going to read this question and maybe tie it in. And, I'd love to hear kind of go around the full group just down the line of panelists. But the question that came in says, it's frustrating to be at mid-level in a construction company to help change the culture and make a safe place within the company for this conversation to even begin. Are there any resources available to present to upper management to help change their minds on and outlook on this incredibly prevalent topic? And then again, that ties right into generally, what resources do you recommend to people in general around this topic? So let's just go in alpha order here, and Brandon, we'll kind of start back with you and then go down the line.
Yeah, a great question. Cassandra, I feel your pain and frustration, as do many of us on this webinar today that are participating, and I'm no doubt the panelists. It's, there's a number of resources available. I've personally, I can speak for myself, have provided presentations and talks to mid-level and upper management's executive suite level managers and owners, CEOs, to discuss this very topic. And some of it is a dollars and cents aspect. Mandy shared some statistics earlier. There's tons of them out there. And it's just having that conversation and drawing the picture. Sometimes you have to talk about the bottom line. And there is a bottom line to some of this. And the return on investment, $1 and you get 3 to 4 back. Anybody will take that deal all day long, right? But there are resources in most communities, unions, and trades across the nation that are available to help have that conversation. And I'll throw out there myself, and I would assume anyone on this call, on this panel, is more than willing to come and speak or have a conversation with anyone, not just Cassandra. But we feel the pain, but don't give up.
I'll add to, before we turn to Barb to respond, that Brandon mentioned that anybody on this panel would be willing to speak. Our website will be updated over the next few days with new resources that include a speaker sourcing guide. I believe everybody on this panel is on that, and as well as a number of other speakers, and almost all of those speakers have noted that their speaker fee is no charge, particularly if they're virtual. So you can reach out to those folks. Their contact information will be on that speaker sourcing guide, and see if they can come and present or have those conversations with your teams as well. If you are not signed up to receive our emails, because we'll email out when new resources go out, you can go to our website on the contact page and sign up to be notified by email when those resources go out. So Barb, I'll turn it to you, and we'll keep going down the line on those questions.
We have multiple, as an organization, AFSP, I do multiple trainings, and we will do them in person and also virtually. We hold programs once a month, and it's called Talk Saves Lives. And so anybody could join out of the safety, in your own home. And all you need to do is register. We hold them once a month. And it's an introduction of suicide prevention. And so it kind of gives you what to do if you are in that moment with somebody that's in crisis, our research we're doing. And so I encourage anybody to sign up for it and view it if you're more interested in this topic. And we have like a Talk Saves Lives workplace that we also offer, and that's for the whole industry, construction industry. So we have different programs, educational programs that are geared towards different audience. We have schools, we have all kinds of programs that we offer. So I'd say get the education and be the voice. If you want something passed, you be the voice and say, I would like to see us do a presentation here for our site, and just, bring it to upper management, let them know you feel this is important to have done, and don't give up until be persistent, and you'll get your way.
So I feel the pain with this question, because when you're trying to champion something that ownership, leadership isn't on board with, it's difficult. Please email me. I will give you basically a justification letter as to with stats and everything. But I think one of the biggest things that you can say is labor shortage. Everyone talks about the labor shortage. Okay. If you, as part of your interviewing process, say you have a mental health program, that connects with so many people. I mean, 1 in 5 Americans will have a mental health challenge or crisis in any given year. So if that person hasn't experienced something or knows somebody that has experienced something, I mean, chances are they're connected in some way. And that hits home for people. I mean, that's personal. So when you have a company saying that, hey, we care about you mentally and as a person, huge recruiting tool. I have seen it work, and I have seen employees be so much more engaged. So labor shortage, and then just the business case, the $1 investment, $3 to $5 return. 76% of people believe companies should be doing more about mental health in the workforce, according to SHRM. There's so many stats. I will give them to you all, because I know the pain of when you're trying to convince somebody to do the right thing and they don't see it as the right thing.
And also, we want to add from the OSHA standpoint on the conversation here that you are not alone. We started just with 2 or 3 people in 2020, and now we have 48 safety professionals fully engaged in this topic. So we have to start, in some point. So you have started, you want to do this. And you have now a lot of people, a lot of safety professionals that are fully committed to this. Reach out to OSHA. Our compliance assistant specialists in Region 7 are at your disposition. The area directors for OSHA also are available to help you, to provide not only guidance, we can go there and also do a speech with middle or upper managers. So to bring the conversation, sometimes you need somebody from the outside to come and tell just the same what you just said, you know, but then the click happens. Oh, Mandy said it. But I have been telling you this year the same thing that Mandy is saying, but it's a new face, it's a new approach, it's a new edge in the conversation that is going to bring a win-win situation. So it's going to open the doors. That's what you need, you know. Open the conversations, open the door, and then they're going to the click is going to happen, you know. And also you can join our suicide prevention task force to start, you know, see if your employer approve you to be part of this initiative. I will start there, you know, and then you're going to have a lot of people that are in this group willing to help you even more with their expertise, with their stories, with their successful stories as well. So you are not alone. We are here to help. So just give us a call.
Thank you. So we are getting close on our time, so I'm going to give each panelist about 60 seconds to give final thoughts, anything that they maybe want to, you know, key takeaways or things that they didn't get a chance to mention earlier. And then we'll close things out. So we'll just go back in the same order. So alphabetical order starts with Brandon.
Well, thanks for letting me be a part of this real quick rapid fire round here. So I can't get off this webinar without saying thank you, and everyone just keep doing what you're doing, keep talking about this. There's a tremendous amount of resources available. agcofmissouri.org has our own website and toolbox talks, posters, a lot of marketing materials. There's plenty out there, and it's free of charge. AGC of America has a national task force team that has taken up this charge as well, and a website that'll be going live here soon, as well as resources and links to, you know, everyone and anything related to this to help. So thank you.
I would like to thank all of you for attending, and to Angela for pulling this all together. You're amazing. And so I would like to say, if you are personally struggling, treat yourself like you would treat somebody else that needs your help. And so please know that you are important and you matter, and so do the people that you love and that you work with. And so just be there, be present. And our website has a lot of information, whether you lost somebody to suicide, if somebody attempted, and how you can be there to support them. And it is afsp.org. And so does the construction website, has a lot of different information. So utilize these tools. There's resources available, and please reach out if you need any help. I'm here. Thank you.
I would say there is no reason anybody should be suffering in silence. If you go to my website, www.levelup-consultants.com, I have mental health awareness webinars. I have the mental health first aid training that I can do privately for a company or an association. And then I have open classes too that I'll be doing throughout the year. But I just think that to break the stigma and fear of workers is going to take breaking the stigma and fear of employers. And so I think if you're listening to this webinar, watching this webinar, you're obviously a champion for this cause. So use your voice and use your influence in whatever way you can. And you have this whole group behind you to support you. And then thank you, Angela. Thank you, everyone on the panel for this. I'm very passionate about this topic. It's long overdue, and I'm excited to see where we are in the next coming years.
Yes, I joined the group here, but especially we want to thank the Builders Association, who are one of the oldest partners in United States with OSHA. And we want to thank our 14 OSHA partners that are under this partnership as well, and all the safety professionals that are in the suicide prevention task force for helping us to achieve this today. And thank you, Angela, you are amazing. Thank you for helping us to put all of this together. We are reaching out more people because of your diligence in all of this computer world, digital world. So thank you very much, and we need more of this, and we're gonna keep it. So you're not alone. So just call us. We are just a phone call away, an email away, a text away from you. So we're here to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you all for attending our webinar today. We did record this, and we will share it out to everybody who registered on our website and on our YouTube channel. So please do share broadly with others so that they can get the benefit of the information as well. And then our website, constructionsuicideprevention.com, which you see on everybody's background. You can go there. There's a contact page, and the contact page, you can be in touch with us directly if you'd like to join the task force, if you'd like to get more information, if you'd like to get involved in some way, please do reach out, and we'd be happy to help out however we can. Thank you to all of our panelists for your expertise and your vulnerability today. I really appreciate it. We're very honored to lead this conversation and look forward to doing more to save lives. Thank you all. Take care.